surgery on that as a younger player, and then in college, hamstring stuff. But really, my wife decided she wanted to run a half marathon recently, so I started training with her. And I'm good running 3 to 4 miles, but then when it got to 7, 8, 9, man, something happened, and I was like, "This is exactly what caused this back issue, was this long distance running that I was not built for."
Yeah, your body like, "What you doing to me?"
No, so it's been tough to stop, but like you wanna keep working out, you wanna keep being active, and sometimes you gotta be like, "Alright, I don't need to do that much weight anymore or
That's right.
run that far," but no, Maurice, man, I'm so excited to have you on the Books for Guys podcast, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. As we were talking a little bit before I push record, as big sports fan myself. A lot of people that listen and watch this, big sports fans too. Man, you've got a book out, which is awesome, and I think it speaks to a lot of not just for athletes, people going through transition in any part of their life that they've done, what if they've done something for a long time and they're trying to figure out something new. It's always man, it's a journey to figure out the best way to approach that and to do that. And so I think what you've written is awesome, especially like being a former NFL athlete yourself, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And man, I was looking back, I was thinking like, growing up watching the Jaguars during your tenure, I was like, "Oh, that's Byron Leftwich, David
Yeah,
Garrard," and,
yeah,
you got to block for those guys, which is really cool.
absolutely. It was, let's go back and just and go down memory lane and just when you're walking in it, you don't realize how special it is because that's just what you do. But just going back, recognizing and play with guys like Baselli and Mark Brunell,
Yeah,
Byron Leftwich, Fred Taylor, Jimmy Smith. I mean, these names, all guys would be considered for Hall of Fame one day, some of the greatest in franchise history. And battling with your brothers, man, it's those are special memories and it's cool. It's like as we'll talk about later, you kind of reflect like playing sports allows you to do some unusual but fun, adventurous things, and sometimes it's hard to replace because it's hard to get in front of 100,000 people again and just give everything you have to go win a game. And
yeah,
so finding what your next is sometimes can be a challenge.
yeah. No, and you're right, it's hard to explain the feeling you have when you're playing, and it also, looking back, time goes by so much faster than you thought it would. And you miss those times, but you appreciate those times with, again, being in the locker room with your teammates and just the struggle, the triumphs. Like, it's all just great memories and great moments that's hard to replace, specifically as you transition out of that, which is what your book's about. And I've got it pulled up here. When the
Okay.
game is gone, transitioning to life after sports with faith, purpose, and identity. Maurice, so just kind of to kick things off about your book, what did you see personally that led you to wanting to write this book and then seeing a purpose for it, and what's been your mission behind it?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. I think probably not long story, but really, when I got done, I was at my church's Bible school, it was not accredited, and during that time, I just had this knowing I was supposed to write a book, and I even had a title that I had, and I was just like, okay, when the game is gone, like I'm gonna write this book. But really, for me, looking back, that was probably maybe a year or two removed from playing in the National Football League. And I always wonder why I couldn't finish the book and what the timing wasn't right. I had the what, like what I was supposed to do, but I actually needed to go through the steps of transition. Specifically, as time would go past, I remember one day walking, I put this story in the book as well. I remember walking to Panera, this is usually going to pick up the family meal. I'm in line, I got about four people ahead of me. Instantly, it's like for the first time, which I felt like I was hearing like the audible voice of God, and I can feel his compassion and love like I've never felt before. And it was revealing to me his heart for former players and knowing that he still loves them just as much as when they are done as when they are playing. And I remember it happened. I'm like, man, what is this? So I pull out my iPhone and I start go to the notes section trying to write down what I'm hearing and feeling and expressing. And I was like, I'm looking around like nobody else around me kind of sensing this. Like, this is crazy. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I started a Bible study and I just started meeting with guys and really working through the subject of transition, which I really realized was bigger than what I even really imagined.
Yeah, no, and I'm curious to know just kind of like the reception you've gotten from your book, just because, again, like as a fan, you see interviews and guys that their time is done, and there's always that common theme of like, man, I don't know what to do next, or this is all I've known, and for some guys, that it truly is what they eat, slept, breathed their entire life from a young man through the NFL, and when that time comes, it's a reality smack that, some guys just aren't ready for. So
Yeah.
what are some things that you talk about to help players through that transition to find their purpose? I mean, what are some things you can coach guys on to help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that this book brings a fresh perspective. Sometimes we only know our story. And so one of the things I've learned of seeing so far is that I really wasn't even considering when I wrote the book, just how much this story correlates to people in military. Because oftentimes the badge that they wear and their sense of service for a country, once that ends, whether it's through injury, for whatever reason they had to leave of the service, they often are having the same feelings that athletes are going through. And so I've heard back from a lot of not only just athletes, but military leaders. And I think a gentleman from the Wounded Warrior just like, hey, I'm reading your book now. We're going to get back to you soon. But this title caught my eye. And this is through one of my LinkedIn connections. And so in leading people through, like, what are some of the things I think this book will help, especially for believers or don't, maybe you don't even have a relationship with God, but it's getting to this place to understand, like, whatever you just walked out of, that was just one chapter. Like our lives has many chapters and there's many doors that are going to open up. And one thing that is cool about our guy, he is not a one trick pony. He will open up doors and opportunities and show you things that and have you doing things you never imagined because you were just so focused, locked in, laser focused on that one season. And that's one of the cool things I've discovered since being done is like, man, there's so many things that I can do, but there's also so much purpose that I can live for. And so not only just military people, athletes, coaches, business leaders, I think this book that God had put on my heart to write, it really is impacting a lot of different people from a lot of different spheres because we all have to deal with this subject of transition. Like sometimes you try to control the narrative, like I'm gonna go out like this, but oftentimes something happens. You need, man, I didn't think that I was gonna be removed from my place like that. I didn't think that they was gonna replace me. And so there is, as you go through the stories, I think you get here from like kind of some of my personal journey, but you also kind of get the perspective of what a lot of NFL players have been had the challenge of navigating and the challenge of of watching or listening to the stories of NFL players. Some people have a hard time connecting with that story sometimes because well, like what are you talking about? You had all this, you had the money, you had the fame. Like, what's the big deal? Like at the end of the day, whether they're National Football League players, whether they're the top CEO pulling in $5 million a year, they're still human.
That's
They
right.
still they still are people, and then they need to know that God has a story for them just like everybody else.
That's right. That's right. And I love that you shared a couple different messages there. One, I was really cool that you mentioned getting a lot of feedback from military personnel. It's been cool. I've had a couple former military leaders on this podcast who have written books, and they talk about that exact thing. When you're in the military for 10, 15, 20 years, and that's all you know, they talk about the struggle of finding their purpose outside of that. But that's the word they use is purpose. Like you got to find something that you can grab onto and something that you're excited to wake up to do each day. And so you've got to continually seek that out. And the other point you hit on, I was thinking too, I was like a lot of like normal people that watch the NFL and stuff, it's hard to correlate. And they do have those thoughts like, why this person made millions, this person got to do what they love and they're famous. But at the end of the day, you're right. Like they're people that go through those same feelings of, it's like being cut unexpectedly is like getting fired from a job that you love and didn't expect or see that coming, and you got a family you got to take care of, and and sometimes players got a lot of different people they're taking care of, so responsibility feels heavy as you learn a lot about some of their stories. So I think it's really cool that you spotlight those specific examples. Maurice, writing this book, have you seen it make an impact on you as far as like, so you're a high school coach. You've been coaching at, is it Providence High School?
Yep. Yes.
And you've been there for like, I was looking at like 12 years, position coach, head coach now. Have you seen it help you as a coach be able to, I don't know, share a certain message with young guys in a way?
Absolutely. So the book really helped me to allow me to expand my influence beyond what I can even here in Jacksonville. Uniquely enough, this I'm a believer, and so there I know there's three areas that I'm supposed to impact, and I always felt like it was supposed to be high school, college, and the pros. And as uniquely, God has opened up doors and opportunities in all three phases. And there's oftentimes I'll speak at colleges. There's oftentimes where I will, of course, continue to work with the chaplaincy with the Jaguars. And then also, I'm a high school football coach and senior Bible teacher. So I have these three spheres of influence that I'm working with. And so the book has really just amplified my voice and my mission. And so again, writing the book was the challenge, but actually now I'm able to see like, oh God, I see what you're doing. And so he's allowing opportunities for people that to hear a fresh perspective, to hear from somebody who's called in this industry to make an impact. Look, just for me, I've ministered at the Pro Bowl, I've ministered in the Senior Bowl, I've ministered in front of thousands, and so I know how like God uses me. But to have these opportunities now, it's a one-on-one conversation. You're reading the book and you're receiving the voice of a former player, a chaplain, and a high school football coach, in which I use stories from all three lanes that I kind of operate in. And so that's what I've kind of learned and how it can make an impact. And for me, when I look at my players, I have this unique ability to see the end. Because the first part, when I started ministry, it was working from the pros. Right, the pros I can make an impact. Yes, and God is doing great things, but now I kind of rewind, and now I'm at the high school level where they don't have some of the issues that grown men have, and now they got all the money, fame, and wealth, and they think they know it all.
Yeah.
Now I can get to them when they are young and think they know it all, and let me see, like, no, you don't know a lot just yet.
Yeah.
So it gives me an opportunity to really understand the purpose about why I even coach. And I really feel like I'm in a place now where I'm living a purposeful living, and just I'm living to just do everything I can to make an impact with my time here.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Have you seen, kind of changing lanes a little bit, just kind of more like football focused? You've been coaching through some time frames where things have changed. College, NIL, even the NFL has changed some stuff up. High school kids are doing different things. They're training year round. I don't know if, when you were a kid, if you played basketball, track, if you did multiple sports, but it seems like kids are getting more pushed to just focus earlier on one thing as they, try to accomplish the goal of getting, to the college program they want or, to the NFL. But what have you, I guess, just what's your personal opinion on the state of the sport in general? And as far as like high school kids go, are they dealing, and I'm thinking social media too even, we didn't have to deal with that growing up, but what
Yeah.
are some of the challenges that you've started to see that you didn't have to experience, but you're having to work through with those young men to kinda help them stay, I guess, on a path that they need to stay on and not veer? What are some of those challenges you've had to figure out and help coach these kids on?
Yeah. I would say today the business of sport is becoming more refined. I think there's opportunities to do things year round. Man, I really encourage the multi-sport athlete, especially when you're young, because you just don't know. Those who have desires to play beyond their high school or to impact their high school or in different ways, I highly encourage you to play multi-sports. I think Nick Saban has come out and multiple coaches are saying like the multi-sport athlete are the ones they want to look at. They're more developed. They have each sport kind of feeds into the development of the athlete. Now, I remember my high school, it was a basketball school, and my basketball coach, he came to me one day and he was just like, "Hey Mo, I think you would be a really good basketball player, but you got to let football go." And I was looking at him, I was just like, I don't know, I had like a year of football in. I was like, my football is way better than my basketball. If I got to make a choice today, I'm going to focus on football. and it almost forced me to make a choice there. But there's still athletes today are still having to deal with this, where a basketball coach is saying, "Hey, give up your football, give up your track, and just focus only on basketball." But also to have seen as a coach over the years, if a guy will come to us a little sooner, maybe that sophomore junior year, and give us a shot, you'll give us 2 years to develop you and give you an opportunity to be recruited for college at a position that you probably would be considered as a Division 1 athlete. And so I highly encourage that athletes today that they really understand until you've really gotten to that place like I'm already a 4 and 5 star. Those guys kind of it's narrowed down. But
Yeah.
those guys where they're still trying to figure out and they're in that discovery phase, man, do multi sports until it's really gotten to that place. I know what I am. And so the challenge is AAU, else and all the different stuff that is now entered into the sports realm. And so it's starting to become a money focus instead of just the pure love of the game of something while we do some of these things. And so parents are challenged to make a good choice for their kids as well. All right, I know your coach said that, but let's balance this out. Let's see the big picture. All right, you're 6'7", don't have point guard skills, but you are 250 pounds. Hey, maybe you should go play tight end or left tackle somewhere. You might make some money right there. So those are the type of things that we're helping parents to kind of navigate and really think about how do they handle this. So good question, by the way, because I know I'm not the only coach in America that's helping their athletes work through that. And I mean, it was happening 20 plus years ago when I was in high school. So it's still happening today, but at a higher
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just something you see coaches talk about, Kirby Smarts of the world in college and in high school. You can see the athletes that, and maybe it's because their parents are guiding them the right way and the coaches, but you can see them handle things a certain way where, it's passion, everything else will play out by itself. And then you see guys, sometimes it seems like the money's the only thing on the mind and it kind of affects the way they play sometimes or the decisions they make. And I'm sure it is just extremely difficult in today's landscape to try and keep that focus on and say, "Hey, if you just do what you do, everything else will play out. Don't worry so much about the business stuff." But it just penetrates into the lives of these young men so hard now. It's just hard. I can't imagine like what they deal with
Yeah.
around a lot of that, and you see it firsthand. So I was just curious, just yeah, your opinion on that and what you see. Maurice, what's your favorite part about being a high school coach? What's the thing that every day you're like, man, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah. It's think being able to pour into kids who where you don't know what they will be and you see something great happening. Like for instance, this spring for us, like we finally hit our young wave, and so we got a bunch of young players out there. Man, I actually had to take out the pad and actually simulate being an offensive tackle and throwing kids around this spring because I didn't have anybody to give us a look. And so doing things like that, so and I know we like a normal practice, you can do an offense and a defense, but we had about maybe 25. And so I was like, okay, what do you do with that? And so we had to be unique and come up with some new things of how we practice. And because we have other kids was finishing a state championship for weightlifting and track. And so in spring, we know it's a challenge to even get all our players there. But we played last night. We played a jamboree game versus two teams. And man, the boys, they did great. Man, they was scoring touchdowns. They was throwing. We ran the ball. It was two games. Like, man, if that was a 4 quarter game for both teams, we would have came out with a win. And so seeing like just the short development in 2.5 weeks is like, man, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And this like seeing a kid that probably you thought would have no shot, all of a sudden the light just clicked. I was
Yeah.
like, that's when you know the coaching is being effective. And not only just from a football perspective, too, over the years being able to work guys through character issues, being able to sit down, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about what I see, and I give an honest perspective, and even challenge them, and see these kids rise to the challenge, and have the maturity throughout that season. I've had at this point we've had a couple players where we've challenged or decided to stay with us who are now in ministry. And so it's I think there's a lot of rewards from just like kind of just doing what you're supposed to do, pouring into the kids and just allowing and just seeing the fruit of it. My first year, I had a tennis player at right tackle. Name was so Marshall, and he was like, "Coach, I just want to play." He was probably 180 pounds wet, and I was just like, "All right, man." I said, "Did you what we got?" I was like, and man, he battled his tail off though. The tennis, it really helped him to kind of be able to know how to move
Yeah,
laterally, and man, he fought his tail out. Every now and again, he'll find a player that he was overmatched with, but he would not quit,
yeah.
and that just reminds me what good coaching will bring out of players.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I love stories like that. And I'm sure it is so rewarding to just, like you said, see the light bulb go off on somebody, whether that be just from an athletic standpoint or a personal development standpoint, and know you had a part in helping them get there. I can only imagine just how rewarding that feels. Maurice, just a couple more questions for you. I would love to know. I mean, you spent several seasons in the NFL. A lot of guys don't last as long as you do. Do you have, I guess I'm gonna ask, like, what's what's your best memory of playing for the Jaguars? Is there a moment where that you think about sometimes and go, "Man, I love that." Or, is that like the one when someone asks, "How was your playing days?" Is there one moment you think about more than others?
Nah, it's a bunch of moments. I think I know it's uniquely left enough. Like in my last year, I just was just embracing. I didn't know that the end is about to come, but I just embraced being in that environment and just seeing these stadiums filled, man. Just seeing the hatred that they'll have for the Jaguars when they go out and play Pittsburgh, and just taking all that in, the waving tiles or the playoff games versus the Patriots. And it's just I think all the memories being drafted and frustrated that it wasn't a top 10 pick because everybody wants to be a top 10 pick. But playing in Jacksonville, one of the things that really developed me, I got around some good brothers, and I got around some good teammates that were faithful Christians, and uniquely just trying to grow in a tough environment. So spiritually, I grew up in the National Football League spiritually, and so getting around guys like Mark Brunell and Tony Baselli and Kyle Brady and all these different guys. Just spending time with these men in Bible studies, and Anthony Johnson being our team chaplain at the time, who played for Notre Dame and Colts and in the Jags. And so having guys who understand the walk and being willing to just talk about life and just beyond what some of the struggles we go through as players on the field, those are rich moments. And so when I look back over my career, I'm excited when we go out and have a big playoff win versus Pittsburgh. Man, that was probably some of my funnest memories
Yeah.
playing against them. And Casey Hampton complaining, thinking I'm holding him because I pancaked him. And so there is there's just a lot. I think when I look back over my career, that I'm thankful for, not only just in the National Football League, but even my time at Michigan, first year of college, we won a national championship and played with guys like Tom Brady and Brian Greasy, Charles Woodson, and all these great names, and playing with guys who you would have never known that was going to be a Hall of Famer one day. And so I look back on all those memories and I cherish it, and I saw I have a special place for it. But I also understand, like with guys like me, you walk through an adrenaline junkie's dream,
Yeah.
and so to kind of detox and try to understand, like, how do I get back to a normal life? This is one of the reasons why I wrote the book. I
Yeah.
think it'll really help people to kind of just understand, like, okay, there's life after the game, and it's okay. It's okay if it's not banging heads, and it's okay if it's not being out on the warfield shooting at people, whatever you did at a high level, just knowing that the next chapter, like God has something special. So that's guess how I'll answer that one.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. And I said I got 2 more questions. I got 2 more questions now because I thought of another
Okay.
one I wanna ask you. But, I remember that win versus Pittsburgh. I was that weird kid, man, that in elementary school, I had my parents record Monday Night Football because I had a
Yeah.
bedtime, so I'd watch it after school on Tuesday. So I remember a lot of just games and moments, and when I knew I was talking with you, I was thinking back to, like, the Jaguar memories I had and just the players I remember watching. And I remember where I was watching that game at a friend's house. That was fun to watch. Maurice, if you were talking to a group of we just had the draft, so if you were to be invited to talk to a group of rookies, what would be one of the messages that you'd want to make sure you're able to relay to them as they get their journey started?
Absolutely. Good question. Want to be go buy the book. No, I wanted to say that. No, I
Yeah,
think
let me
it's
give you this book first.
One of the things I really just recognize this that you're the one percenters. You walked into an opportunity that most men are fighting their whole young sports career to get to, and don't lose it by poor decision making. Steward the opportunity well, because if you steward this well, it's going to set you up for many doors and opportunities later in life. You're at a place now where this is not only will financially do some great things for you, but vocationally, relationally, but you're able to write a story that not many men are have the opportunity to do so. And so and I do this every year. I talk about the importance of stewardship. All right, steward the opportunity well. That means working hard, studying your playbook, actually taking care of your body, getting around the right people. All those things will help add to hopefully a long career. We know NFL stands for not for long. All right. But so if it is not for long, you better plan like tomorrow might be your last day. So make sure you steward it well. Make sure you don't not understand the opportunity that's presented to you. And then this is when I will return them back to the book. And because if you read the book, you have some life lessons from a guy who has played it for almost 10 years and has walked with people after the game as a chaplain as well. And so you get a fresh perspective on mental health, finances, the importance of relationships, and importance of and the perspective that you need to keep as you're walking through this career. And so that's kind of how I'll lead them through with a shameless book club, because it is wisdom. Because I'm sharing like even what it looks like at the end when you think your career is still going, but all of a sudden you're teetering, and then you got the Turk coming to get you for cut day. And so that's what I would share.
Yeah. No, and that perfectly leads into my last question for you, and this is kind of just more for a books for guys perspective as well. But when you were playing and transitioning out, who were a two-part question. Was there a book or two that meant a lot to you during your time as an athlete or post athletics? And who were some of your mentors that you remember having an impact on you and you being able to look to them for guidance in certain, just when you needed?
Yeah, absolutely. Books, of course, as I discovered the words, the number one easy one I would say is the Bible. And then number two, just because it's coming to mind for some reason, is Every Man's Battle. It was a book of this about this the battles that men go through. And that was one book that I read just to kind of give me a fresh perspective on just living life as a Christian man. And then the mentors that I connected with the most would be my chaplains. Bruce Dishno at Michigan was a huge supporter and friend. And then Anthony Johnson here in Jacksonville were guys I pulled on all the time. And then also getting connected to the local churches here in Jacksonville, the pastors, and being able to be a part of the different ministries here in Jacksonville have been a huge a win for me as well. And I think finding some good relationships outside of just the Jaguars in that community has been fruitful too. And so yeah, I think that'll be how I answer that. But I think it's important that for what you're doing is that you're encouraging young men and of all generations to read. The men need to read. The moment we lose this is a challenge, man. So we have to make sure that we're keeping our minds sharp and hearing from different perspectives, because sometimes as men we think no, it's my way, or it's the only way. There's other voices, all right. There's wisdom that we can gain from a lot of people, and we have to be willing to open ourselves up to listen to others as well.
Yeah. Love that, man. Just continuous trying to get better. I don't know if you got to spend much time around Tony Dungy or not, but his book Quiet Strength was the first book I read really in college that like led me to reading more. Was He was a guy that I've never met, but he's one of those guys I've followed just because of his approach to and just his faith, the way he led. That was a good book that I if anyone needs a good book recommendation, that's one I always recommend that may get you going too. But no, Maurice, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And we got your book on the Books for Guys website spotlighted. We got some posts. We'll make sure there's links for people that can go buy your book and keep up with all that you're doing. But man, keep doing the good work. Keep sharing your story. Man, I hope you guys have an awesome season coming up. And I hope you continue to have incredible impact on athletes at all levels and people at all levels. And man, just can't wait to see what all you continue to do in your life.
Thanks, Chris, man. Look forward to seeing what God continue to do with with your platform as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Maurice.
Thanks, Chris.